The world has become a global village. We have become a citizen of a global community. But, despite of its growth and development, there are issues that revolve around the globe that concern schools and society. Some of these are
government corruption that become the major cause of poverty, considering how it affects the poor the most, eroding political and economic development, democracy, and more. Corruption can be detrimental to the safety and well-being of the citizens.
Thus, we interviewed government officials to answer three significant questions: its definition, reasons, and solution, based on global issue which is government corruption and through their own perspective. We have Barangay Captain of Barangay Puntod, Cagayan de Oro City,
Honorable Kapitan Tinampay,
and the Barangay Kagawan of Barangay Amorosa, Salvador City,
Honorable Jimmy Gomez. Here are the reviews and opinions on government corruption.
Good evening, Kagawan. I would like to ask some questions regarding your own point of view as politician on corruption. So, for the first question, in your own opinion, what is the definition of corruption?
As a neophyte in the political scene, corruption for me is not only limited to stealing from public funds, it's also stealing your time and ultimately betraying their trust, as betraying public trust. So it is really something I am indignant about, and as someone new, I believe my view about corruption is the same as everybody's. Although I am already in the politics or in the political scene now, it's still something that's for me nauseating.
Second question, what are the reasons of corruption?
Well, I think the reason why corruption exists, at least in Philippine politics, is because some leaders thought that it has become a norm, which is really not. And they think that they can always get away with whatever wrongdoings, wrong deeds they did. And they think that there's always something to, it's not something of a big deal. So we have to nip it in the core. I have been very idealistic when I entered the political scene, when I envisioned myself to really lead the public. But as far as my observation is concerned, I think despite all the things that have happened in the past, such as politicians getting caught and getting reported to ombudsman, still there are still those who are elected officials who would still do things that are really about or that has something to do with corruption. I think the reason is because they don't have these moral guiding principles, and it's ultimately lack in faith of God. Because if you have a fear in God, you would even if you don't get caught for the longest time, God is watching. So it really has something to do with your core, with a person's soul, and if it's guided by your moral principles.
For the last question, what are the possible solutions of corruption?
Well, quite honestly, it is a very hard question if you come to think of, putting an end to corruption in general, because somehow it's been programmed in the society that it's already in the DNA of the people to, think that when somebody enters politician, he is a thief. He steals time, he will betray public trust. But if I have to think about a solution, it will take a whole new generation. it will take a whole new race for the Philippines to have a whole new set of people start again. But for now, on a practical side of things, the solution would be it's really within the people themselves. Like, corruption begins when, as a voter, you allow yourself to be bought by bribe, to be bought by, to have this what we call utang na loob towards politician, because it doesn't exist in Western countries. I know they're not perfect as well, but there's no such thing as vote buying. There's no such thing as bribing you to be able to earn your vote. There's no such thing as utang na loob, because they ought to do what they're supposed to do as leaders. So it really starts with the people who would allow themselves, who are not principled when it comes to choosing who they wanted to be elected. And if only we can start with that we can obliterate, or we can eradicate vote buying in the Philippine politics, or in the Philippine elections, then I think we would have the power to be able to really elect leaders that are capable and are really principled in regard to leading the community, or leading leading our place. So that's it. It should start with that. It should start with us, how we elect people. Because when you elect them and you let them, buy your votes, you're giving them the power to do something that you will not be able to hold them accountable for, because you already sold your vote anyway.
Yes.
So I think that's the very first step, and the rest will follow.
Of you, what is the definition of corruption?
Corruption, ang definition sa corruption is a form of dishonesty, or criminal activity nga gihimo sa usa ka tawo or organization katulad ng gisaligan with position of authority na niya makakuha sila og illegal na benefit or abuse nga gi-entrust sa ila nga power para makagain lang sila private, makagain sila sa ilang kaugalingon sa ilang. Common corruption is also the use of power by government official or their network contacts for illegitimate private gain. Corruption also is any unlawful or improper behavior that seeks to gain an advantage through illegitimate means, especially by the powerful.
For the second question, Kop, what are the reasons of corruption?
Reason, greed of money or desires. Wala siya ang reason nga nung may corruption. Usa pa ka ng low levels of democracy. Kanabitang weak liyang ang civil participation and low political transparency. Usa pa ka ng higher levels of bureaucracy and inefficient administrative structure. Nga, muna siya ang mga rason nga nung guna bitaw yoy na corruption ng law, press freedom. Ubus kaya itong press freedom o law, economic freedom. Muna yung mga reasons why naagi corruption sa pamilya.
The possible solutions of corruption.
Punish the vote sellers and vote brokers. Ano siya ang solusyon? Annual assessment of all public officials by the BIR. Na wants a more effective and efficient tax system. Regular surprise examination. Ato ging surprise pag-examining all government offices. Ato nang i-surprise sila. Kanya timely governmental audit by the COA. Ato ginang i-dugayan or by independent auditing firm. Ato ginang siya. Another is strict regulation of all corporations in the Philippines. Sa pamanuban, improve integrity in our justice system. Improve na to ang integrity. Continuing professional education requirements for politicians. Reduce dayon the number of government officials. Daghan ang government official, natural, lagi mga corrupt. Diba? So, muna atong mga solution sa to government corruptions. Thank you.
Another global issue is the substance abuse.
That considered as the harmful and hazardous use of psychoactive substances, including alcohol and illicit drugs. Different classes of people, both poor and rich, partake in substance abuse.
Thus, we interviewed police personnel to answer 3 significant questions: its definition, reasons, and solution, based on global issue, which is substance abuse, through their own perspective.
We have the station commander of Police Station 1, Divisoria area.
Police Captain Roger Ortecho. Let's hear his views and opinions on substance abuse.
Hey, good morning, sir. I would like to ask some questions regarding your own point of view as a policeman on substance abuse. So, for the first question, in your own opinion, what is the definition of substance abuse?
Substance abuse, no, or what we call also drug abuse. No, there are different kind of drugs, no. Karamihan ito and may different functions. Ang iba is for medical reasons, but otherwise maraming mga drugs na inaabuso ng mga tao, kabataan, and this leads to indulgence or overuse ng mga tao, which leads them to addiction. Like for example, the marijuana and amphetamine chloride or shabu. So meron ding cocaine, and through use of this, may mga substance kasi na which is unique from that drugs, leads them to addiction. So for me, ang drug abuse is overuse or overuse ng paggamit ng any kind of drugs.
So, for the second question, sir, what are the reasons why people tend to use substance abuse?
I will focus na lang siguro, no, for the particular question on Dangerous Drug Act 2002, or what we call illegal drugs or shabu, no, or marijuana and other illegal substance, which is yun yung pinaka as police officer, yun yung pinaka problema ng ano natin. In fact, this is the strong main agenda of President Rodrigo Duterte to eliminate the illegal drugs problem. So this is also with the PNP, no? This is also the one of the main strong agenda of our new Chief PNP, no? Police General Gamboa, to eradicate these illegal drugs. So there are different kinds of illegal drugs such as shabu, cocaine, and others, no? So one of the, in fact, here in Cagayan de Oro City, no, the common problem na natin dito sa Cagayan de Oro City is more on shabu, no? In fact, after the announcement or pronouncement of President Duterte to eradicate the illegal drugs, immediately our peace personnel conduct operations on illegal drugs campaign. And in fact, no, we're glad that this problem came down, but not totally eradicated. So, meron pang mga problema. And in fact, no, dito sa Cagayan de Oro City, nag-ooperate tayo every week. We conducted 2 operations per station. So minimum of 2 operations per week. So minimum lang yan. So dyan natin makikita na walang pinipili yung drugs, even minor or adult. And we have many cases, no, na yung ginagamit sa courier or pagbenta ng illegal drugs is ang mga minor. So this is a problem for us because in our law we cannot prosecute or we cannot file cases against minors. So this is a big challenge for us. As so far as of the data, no, we're glad na pag-start ng term ni President Duterte, marami na tayong nahuli, marami na tayong napakulong. In fact, ang problema natin ngayon is the rehabilitation center. And for our local government unit, this is also a positive response, no, kasi tinututukan naman ng ating local government unit. Problema which pertains to drug abuse, no? So this is ang pinag-uusapan lang natin is yung illegal drugs, no? Paggamit ng illegal drugs, nandiyan na yung shabu, cocaine, marijuana. Pero out of that na yung mga illegal drugs, ang pinakasikat, no? Sikat o tinatawag natin yung shabu. So minimal lang tayo na seldom lang tayo nakakarinig about usage of marijuana here in Cagayan de Oro City. And in fact, other countries nga, aside natin the Philippines, legalize the use of the marijuana, no, for health purposes, no, gamot sa sakit. And in fact, meron na nga mga grupo dito sa Pilipinas na sasuggest, no, to legalize the use of marijuana. But the problem, no, ang problem naman ngayon is ang pag-abuso. Kasi once na-abuse yung paggamit ng illegal marijuana, different thing na, no? So that's for now. That is current status na illegal drugs situation dito sa area natin sa Cagayan de Oro. And naka-mention din ako na more on Philippine settings.
And for the last question, sir, what are the possible solutions for substance abuse?
Yes, no. I will focus again on the illegal drugs, no, illegal drugs abuse, since ito naman yung problema talaga natin, yung illegal drugs abuse, no. One of solution of this, no, I mentioned earlier, no, merong pusher, nakategorize kasi yung mga nahuhuli natin, no, nakategorize natin into pusher, user, so dalawang category. One solution of this, no, kasi even though yung batas natin is harsh, but we respect, no, the lives, no, kasi this is a main issue before President Duterte take into power, no. This is the issue of extrajudicial killing, which is not true, no. We in the Philippine National Police, no, yung pangalan namin is nasasali. Ginagawa kami nilang na kami daw ang pumapatay ng mga addict, when in fact it is a wrong perception ng mga tao. When in fact kami mismo sa PNP is tumutulong para ma-clear yung barangay natin, mga area natin dito, sample sa area natin sa Cagayan de Oro City. Because when in fact, ang solution, meron tayong drug clearing operation sa mga barangay. And one of the partners sa drug clearing na yan is PNP, Barangay, and PDEA and DILG. So the PNP is among the partners na, and ang designation niya is advisor only, no? So nag-a-advise lang tayo kung anong gagawin ng barangay para matulungan, no, matulungan yung mga addict, no? So definitely para matulungan yung tinatawag nating solution, no, sa ating mga kababayan, no, na magamit ng illegal drugs, they will undergo rehabilitation program for several months. So as I've said, no, meron tayong community-based rehabilitation program. Once na find out ka na gumagamit ka ng illegal drugs or ang pangalan mong nalista doon sa gumagamit ng illegal drugs, kung gusto mo as a civilian, kung gusto mo na maklear yung pangalan mo, pwede kang mag-volunteer doon sa barangay mo na mag-undergo ng community-based rehabilitation program. Through that, we will conduct a series of intervention until such time na maklear ka na and you will go back to the community, na-rehabilitate ka na. And one of the parameters is that you will subject yourself to a drug test. And once na found out negative na yung result, so that's a good sign na hindi ka natanggal ng magamit. So that's one of the solutions. And for our pusher naman, mentioned earlier, this is also a subject for police operation, or we call Tokang operation in the PNP. I believe you heard that Tokang operation or double barrel operation of the PNP. Na-clear na yung community natin, na-clear na yung mga kapitbahay natin sa ating community, wala nang gumagamit. Eventually, itong problema ng paggamit ng illegal drugs natin sa cocaine or marijuana, pag hindi na nakikita ng mga minors natin, hindi na nakita na wala nang gumagamit, and nakita natin ang police operations, ang police natin is matindi yung operations against illegal drugs. I think siguro that's a strong conviction siguro tatakot yung mga kababayan natin o mga tao na gumamit ng illegal drugs. Siguro makita nila matindi ang strong intervention na ginagawa ng gobyerno, police. Siguro personal, siguro makita nila na malinis na rin yung community, wala nang gumagamit. Siguro that thing siguro is sa personal nila na is matutulungan sila hindi na gumamit ng illegal drugs.